Today is Saturday, March the 24th, 2018. Hello, and welcome to Weekly Astrology Notes for the week of March 25th through April the 1st, 2018. Highlights for this week. Well, it's an exciting week in politics. The aspects we're having and concurrent transits for Trump indicate this coming weekend will be one of the most important of his presidency, a time when he is held accountable, which means he either suffers defeat or his ideals are realized. Politically, this may well be the time he fulfills his promise to drain the swamp, take command and control over the government away from the deep state, and win a key battle against his opponents. Much will be revealed this week in politics. And astrologically, we begin the week with Sunday on the 25th with Moon in Cancer, having a tough day with some big ups and downs, bringing some disruptions in the home. And at the start of the work week, Monday and Tuesday, things are looking good, with Moon in Leo giving us a flair for the dramatic and lots of creative energy. And Wednesday is looking really good, a day for surprise encounters with Venus conjunct Uranus. Time to show the unique side of yourself, able to love everyone. Make plans, find something interesting to do on Wednesday evening. It's a great time for social gatherings. And then things start to get a bit rough. We've got Sun square Saturn on Thursday morning. Has us feeling inhibited and worried about the future, feeling isolated and cold. And also that's a big day in politics. On Friday, we have a short void of course until late morning when the Moon enters Libra. As well, Venus enters Taurus on Friday. And in the evening, we've got the full moon in Libra. Actually, it's early Saturday morning, but it's strongest on Friday evening. And with that comes the usual ups and downs as we struggle for fulfillment. The energy could get destructive with the Sun in Aries and with all the accompanying moon aspects, which are kind of challenging. As well, Mercury retrograde. So use caution on Friday evening. And then on Sunday, the 1st, we're more mentally active with the Sun conjunct Mercury. That'll be early in the day. That aspect and Mars conjunct Saturn happening early on the 2nd are both great aspects to start a new project. However, Mercury retrograde means that may not be advisable. It's going to be hard to wait out this Mercury retrograde period with these two wonderful aspects. So I'll talk more about that when we get to it at the end of the week. And also at the end of the video, transits for Trump and USA, as well for China and Queen Elizabeth. Okay, so let's get started with Sunday, March the 25th. Let's start in the morning with, well, actually in the middle of the night, we've got the Moon trine Neptune, which will be early morning for folks on the East Coast. Feeling warm and sensitive, in tune with the subtle vibrations around you. Pleasant dreams. Also, try to recall your dreams in the morning on Sunday the 25th with this nice Moon trine Neptune. That helps. Also in the morning, we got the Moon square Mercury. Impatient, restless mind that doesn't want to be bothered with emotional concerns. Will need to compromise, avoid competitive talk. It makes for poor digestion in the sign of Cancer. And also, in the early afternoon, it's kind of the same with the poor digestion with the Moon opposition Pluto. The same as the Moon opposition Mars on Saturday morning that we had, yesterday morning. Makes us compulsive, may be confronted by persons in authority. You want to avoid becoming involved in the affairs of others during these Moon opposition Pluto aspects. It could cause problems. As well, emotional outbursts damage your reputation, and it's tough on the digestion. You want to avoid overeating. And then a little later in the afternoon, looks much better with the Moon trine Jupiter. Cancer to Scorpio in water signs. Good time to seek a favor from a woman, because it's, the Moon as well as in the sign of Cancer. Pleasant disposition, feeling lucky, optimistic. Usually a good time for social gatherings but not so much with the next aspect. So we're having kind of this one nice aspect in between two kind of tough ones. We got the moon square Venus a little later in the evening. Uh, Need to let go of what others think about you, especially issues concerning vanity with Venus in Aries. Allow the warm and gentle energy of this aspect to let you get close to others, because even though it's a square, the two feminine planets, Moon and Venus, means it's still warm and gentle. And then just before midnight, we've got the moon square Uranus. So disruptions and surprises late on Sunday evening. Intellectual yet volatile, attracted to the unusual. Again, not good for digestion. And then a void, of course, begins and continues into early Monday morning when the moon enters Leo. Okay, so we move along to Monday, the 26th. Start the work week in the morning with the moon enters Leo. So we're more dramatic and in need of recognition for the next couple of days. You know, Leo rules the stage, so we kind of want to be on stage. We're more comfortable there. It's a good time for creative projects such as hobbies, and also a good time to spend with your children. With 4 trines to Aries and a square to Jupiter, Moon in Leo these days gives us a big dose of creative energy. So we'll start in the afternoon with the moon trine Sun, always a great aspect. The moon in Leo gives us a fixed outlet for the inspiration of Aries, and that's the idea with the trine, the trines in fire sign. The initial inspiration of Aries, which is the cardinal fire, finds grounding or a fixed outlet in the fixed fire of Leo. So it's perfect for artistic endeavors. Always a good aspect, good instincts, and an easygoing attitude. It's fire sign, so it's time to create something. Art, romance, and play. Okay, moving along to Tuesday, the 27th. We'll start in the morning with Moon in Leo trine Mercury in Aries. Tuesday morning is energetic with a positive flow of communication, and it's also good for business. And then in the early evening on Tuesday, we've got the moon square Jupiter, another good aspect. So Tuesday evening, emotions expand, and we feel generous and indulgent. We've got a big appetite with that aspect. So as you can see, there's lots of nice aspects for the moon in Leo these days. In the middle of the night, we've got moon trine Venus, gives us a pleasant disposition. As well, the moon trine Uranus. Still in the middle of the night, they're ambitious and independent, not listening to those who say you can't do it. And then a void, of course, begins, continues until we're still in the early morning. On 7:30, the moon enters Virgo. So we're more focused on work and being productive over the next couple of days. Critical abilities are higher than usual, and it's a good time to attend to your health regime. Also, Virgo is always very helpful towards others. And we've got trines to Capricorn while the moon's in Virgo, so it means we're looking to get ahead, looking for opportunities for material enterprises for the next couple of days. So, in the evening on Wednesday, we have the wonderful Venus conjunct Uranus. That's in Aries, and that'll be at 27 degrees of Aries. So it's time to show off the unique side of yourself. You know, after Venus has gone through a square to Saturn 2 weeks ago, and then last week a square to Pluto, she gets a reprieve with this aspect. It certainly helps to break free and break out of the stagnant energy. Time to let go of something stuffy tradition and do something different and exciting. Bring surprises and unexpected encounters. We've got an easygoing attitude because it's easy to love everyone. You know, Venus is love and Uranus is friendship. So the line between the two kind of gets blurred a little bit with this aspect. It's good for artistic endeavors. You know, come up with new ideas. We're better at abstract thinking and abstract artwork. Idealistic, but a little bit impersonal. Uranus is that way. It gives us that perspective to stand back and view the whole crowd. Gives us a communal perspective. It makes for intelligent conversations, greater awareness and appreciation of what others are thinking. It's also very good for teaching. We intrinsically understand the freedom of others. It means we are also more free, and we want to help others move on to better circumstances, teach them something new, more interested in the unusual or out of the ordinary people and situations, so we're more accepting of others. More curious, open-minded, great time for social gatherings because we're able to love and appreciate everyone. So that means Wednesday evening is a great time for get-togethers. Also on Wednesday evening, the moon trine Mars. Skillful use of resources leads to opportunity for advancement, and that's the Virgo to Capricorn trine. Also, with Mars, we got a lot more physical energy. It's a good time for a workout. And then later in the evening, Moon trine Saturn. Feeling like getting down to business late Wednesday evening. Good time to discuss important matters, reorganize around the home, take stock of your resources, because it's in Virgo, and make a plan to use them more wisely. Okay, moving along to Thursday, the 29th, when things start to get a little bit rough. We start in the morning with the Sun square Saturn. So we got Sun at 8 degrees of Aries, squaring Saturn at 8 degrees of Capricorn. Well, the Sun is your true inner self, while Saturn is that finite boundary around you, which keeps you stable and fixed in the physical world, what holds you in place. It's also, your career. So whenever these two planets get together, the true inner self has to deal with the limitations of life, especially with the square. We feel inhibited by the circumstances of our lives and the inherent limitations that come with career and obligation. The Sun in Aries wants to make its mark on the world, but Saturn and Capricorn are concerned with mastery and integrity, doing it the old-fashioned way, through hard work and discipline. So this aspect gets us to focus on the difference between what we can achieve in this world and what we've actually accomplished. So that's why it can feel a little bit limiting at times. We become more aware of that. It's a time of self-evaluation, inner critical voice kind of nagging at you, worried about your future, feeling isolated and cold, and that can kind of drain your energy. The remedy, as with all Saturn aspects, especially the tough ones, is to live in the present moment. Do what you can now and try not to be hard on yourself and others in the process. The point is to not give up. Don't run away from duty and responsibilities. Your critical faculties are good, especially with the moon in Virgo, so decisions are well thought out. You can proceed slow but sure. It is a low energy aspect. Folks are going to be a little bit slower, not as flexible, more rigid in their perspective, not as available for others as usual, a bit hesitant, thinking about the past and important matters in the present. But it's good for focus and concentration, getting a lot of work done and finishing something through to the end. As well, we have much bigger concerns today, and that's politics. This is a big day of testing for what began on December the 21st of last year. And actually, in a way, that's true for all of us. So you might want to recall what began around that time, and you'll see that today is a bit of a day of testing for that. And that was the day of Sun conjunct Saturn. And in politics, that was the day that Trump signed the executive order to stop all the human trafficking. And if you follow the alternative media, something big is coming down. The recent firing of McCabe, it's just the beginning of a much bigger story about to break as people finally begin to see what has really been going on. I just ran across this story. It says that 74% of all Americans believe the deep state is running the country. Wow, you never hear that on the mainstream media, do you? But that's kind of the way it is. Many of us have really woken up, and we really know what's going on. The high percentage of awakened individuals means they can't withstand much longer. something big in politics is going to happen around this aspect, and for this and many other concurrent aspects. And it's quickly followed by Mars conjunct Saturn, and that's going to be on Monday morning. And between these two aspects, we see some powerful events coming to fruition. And I'll talk more about this at the end when I talk about Trump. But just to say, it could be a really big day in politics on Thursday. So finishing up on Thursday, still in the morning, we've got the Moon opposition Neptune. Confusing moment when we are confronted by something we don't understand. It's like something that exists on a different level, beyond the material plane. So it's confusing if you can't move into that other level. We can be easily deceived and prone to wishful thinking. The Moon is in Virgo, is very helpful now. His desire to help the sick or the disadvantaged. And then in the early evening, we've got the Moon trine Pluto. Strong burst of energy, able to make the right move, a precise adjustment. Virgo gives us that ability to make a proper correction. And in this case, it brings an opportunity for success with Pluto in Capricorn. And then another good aspect on Thursday evening, the Moon trine Jupiter. Emotions expand, desire to merge with others, gives us a pleasant mood. And then a void, of course, begins and continues until late Friday morning. Okay, moving along to Friday, March 30th. Begin the day with Moon void, of course, until the late morning when the Moon enters Libra. We're more congenial and looking for partnership for the next couple of days. Emotions are balanced and we're more diplomatic. It's a good time for business negotiations. And then in the evening, Venus enters Taurus. It'll be there until April the 24th. So that's about 3.5 weeks. Venus rules Taurus, so it's in its ruling sign now, as well as Libra. But in Taurus, Venus really likes to be there because the steadfast energy enables Venus to relax and enjoy life. We're more interested in personal possessions and in particular the comfort they bring. Makes us more possessive and protective of what we have. We're more easygoing and sensual, sociable and charming. It's a good time for money matters. Personal business matters in particular run more smoothly, and opportunities for material success, material enterprises, especially with the trines we'll be getting to Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, as well as the opposition to Jupiter in Scorpio. Good time to work on your own business or home occupation. You know, people who own their own business often have Sun in the second house or Taurus. It's usually a key indicator. And when Venus goes into Taurus, you know, it's the same kind of a thing where it's a good time to work on your own business or home occupation. And of course, Venus rules relationships, so now they're more steady and slow and steady, or more passive, and desire to be stroked. It's like the opposite of Scorpio. Scorpio likes to do the stroking, and Taurus likes to be stroked. Okay, and Friday evening, we have the full moon. It's exact on early Saturday morning, but it's most strongly in effect on Friday evening, so I'm going to just include it here. A bit to say about that. You know, at the full moon, projects which started at the new moon 2 weeks ago, they reach a point of culmination. We always have a new start at the new moon, and when the full moon arrives, our mood really reflects how well we've been doing on those new projects. So we're either really up or we're really down. So we're looking for recognition. With the moon in Libra, you need to recognize your partner just as much as yourself, I would say. And as always with the full moon, subconscious impulses rise to the surface. Sometimes they bring out the dark side in some people, and there's always a lot more police activity at the full moon. Folks are prone to big emotional ups and downs and impulsive behavior. Ego energies are strong during this full moon with the sun in Aries, and the accompanying square aspects that we have to planets in Capricorn and the opposition to planets in Aries. It brings a lot of challenging aspects surrounding the full moon. Subconscious impulses rise to the surface, as I was saying. So use caution this evening. Folks are pushing and demanding, and the energy becomes self-destructive, especially with when the energy is turned inward, as it is now with Mercury currently retrograde. So that also tends to bring more mechanical breakdowns. So just be aware of that. And moving along to Saturday, the 31st, just after midnight, we've got the difficult moon square Mars. The late Friday evening brings a time of delicate health, impulsive and volatile behavior. And then in the middle of the night, moon square Saturn, hard to express yourself, secrets are revealed. And then in the early morning, we've got the full moon. I already went into that. And then later in the morning, we've got the moon opposition Mercury. So diplomatic moon in Libra is confronted by impulsive Mercury in Aries. Excuse me, not Mars. And we go on an intellectual tangent, trying to find perfection and balance. Subconscious impulses interfere with normal communication. Okay, moving along to Sunday, April the 1st, April Fool's Day. Starts out just after midnight. We've got the moon square Pluto. So Saturday evening is kind of just like last night, just like Friday evening with the moon square Mars just after midnight. And this time it's the moon square Pluto just after midnight. And again, emotions inhibited, feeling frustrated, but the strong burst of energy needs to be harnessed. Secrets are revealed. And just like the moon opposition Pluto, you just generally want to avoid getting involved in other people's lives. You know, leave them be. And that's that square to Pluto. It isolates. But if you do it intelligently, then you don't feel like you're isolating yourself. It's just the other people who can't deal with it. So, you know, it's that kind of thing. You just want to avoid other people's drama during those tough moon Pluto aspects. And then moving into a little later Sunday morning, we've got the Sun conjunct Mercury, currently retrograde, and that'll be at about 11 degrees of Aries. Now this aspect, it happens a few times each year as Mercury goes retrograde a few times each year. It's always a good one. It brings the light of the sun into the conscious mind. We're more mentally active, talkative, intelligent, opinionated, and curious. We are more focused on ourselves and our own thoughts and opinions. Kind of makes us a little bit more single-minded. Nonetheless, it's a good day for communication. Our creative energy is very active and changeable. We can move easily from one thing to the next without much hesitation. Able to do two things at once. You know, Mercury rules Gemini. Has that dual nature to it. Folks have lots of bright ideas, and the inner child within us comes out to play. In the sign of Aries, it's more energetic than usual. Usually a good aspect to start a business. This one is because Mercury rules transactions, and especially in Aries, you know, which likes to begin things. However, Mercury is still retrograde, so I hesitate to recommend starting anything new. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the Mars conjunct Saturn. But finishing up with the aspects on Sunday, around noontime, we've got the moon opposition Uranus. Makes us interested in the unusual, confronted with something out of the norm, have a detached attitude, feeling the need for independence, hard to be domesticated. You know, you can't be settled down with Uranus giving us all that energy for change. And then a void, of course, begins. And then in the early a little later in the afternoon, moon enters Scorpio. So, starting Sunday afternoon, we're more passionate for the next couple of days. Folks are just more intense and more controlling with their emotions. They do things all the way or not at all. It brings up stubborn or defiant behavior and sometimes the darker element of your character. But Scorpio is a water sign, so we're more sensitive. That's one thing that we should become more aware of when the moon is in Scorpio, is that we are more sensitive and in need of reassurance during this time. It kind of helps to get past the rough spots. It's, the second water sign. Cancer is our emotions, the first water sign, and Scorpio is the second water sign. It's our partner's emotional needs. So we're good at attending to the emotional needs of our partner when the moon is in Scorpio. We're also more psychic and better able to sense others' emotional state. Very useful abilities when attending to your partner's emotional needs. And then later in the evening, we've got the moon in Scorpio opposition Venus in Taurus. Very fixed signs, a bit inflexible. We're very sensitive and moody during this one. Not a good time for social gatherings. And regarding Sunday evening and the Mercury retrograde in general, I talked a little bit about Mercury retrograde last week when it started, but giving a little bit more focus again on it this week because we have all these other aspects that encourage us to initiate things, yet Mercury is retrograde telling us to stop. So that's why it's kind of difficult to wait through this Mercury retrograde period. Early on Monday morning, the 2nd, we're going to have Mars conjunct Saturn, and that'll be at 8 degrees of Capricorn. You can see it almost happening here. So on Sunday evening, we are self-disciplined. Ego energies are focused towards success. Trivial matters are dropped in favor of more important matters. We're more competent, more confident, methodical, willing to work for future gain, not so much concerned with present comfort. Able to put in a sustained effort and see a job through to the finish, take pride in your work and feel a sense of accomplishment. Seems like a really great aspect to starting new projects, just like the Sun conjunct Mercury. However, with Mercury retrograde, it's not a good idea to start something new, as we're still going over old ground until April the 15th. It's going to be hard to wait this period out with these two wonderful aspects. It could be kind of frustrating as you want to move ahead, but something just doesn't seem to be right. We're all still waiting. Mercury retrograde is a time to go over old ground, rethink things, and finish existing projects. So the energy of these two aspects, the Sun conjunct Mercury and Mars conjunct Saturn, may cause us to finish existing projects with single-minded drive. You may confront with warlike intensity anything left unfinished in your life, which is really good if it's harnessed for your highest good. However, because the retrograde energy causes the energy to turn inward, with Aries, that means the energy coming back at you could cause self-destructive behavior, even to the point of having an accident. So be extra careful during this time, as some folks may become more accident prone. Nonetheless, these aspects give us a lot of self-confidence and desire to make a powerful self-confidence to make a powerful internal adjustment to our thinking, which is what we need to do with Mercury retrograde. And this energy focused in that way will awaken your spirit within, desire to speak your truth, which is something we really need to do with Mercury retrograde. You need to, because so many of the things we say aren't true. We get these retrograde periods where we get to go back over the things we've said and resolve to speak our truth. It's a very important lesson for the Mercury retrograde period. And with all of this Aries energy coming through, you've got this powerful awakening of the spirit, and you really want to take advantage of that desire to speak your truth and not be superficial, and be just really honest and open. Gives you a strong dose of confidence and inner firmness of purpose that could prove to be very useful. Just know that you're not ready to move forward until April 15th. A big political battle is going on, and we need to wait until the smoke clears and the dust settles before proceeding ahead. So I've got a few links that I'm going to leave in the description about Mercury retrograde. I think it helps to get a variety of perspectives and to just kind of read up on it. You know, the United States of America has Mercury retrograde in its natal chart, and I think it inhibits us politically quite a bit. On a political level, this is a very intense time. The Mars conjunct Saturn marks the return of Saturn in Capricorn in a way that is just as powerful as last December with the Sun conjunct Saturn. We're looking for another event to herald the return of Saturn in Capricorn, something that gives us an idea of a return to modesty and morality, ethical and traditional behavior and values in life. Politically, for this new paradigm, the die has already been cast with Trump's executive order in December, and this Mars conjunct Saturn should instigate a fight regarding that executive order. The commanding, aggressive, masculine quality of Mars conjunct Saturn in Capricorn and the Sun square Saturn indicate a serious political battle happening this week. And it's all while Mercury is retrograde. I just give that a big wow. All that aggressive energy turned inward. Aggressive Mars actions which are not in keeping with the qualities of Capricorn do not work and lead to a big self-destructive mistake. So I'm thinking the deep state tries one last attempt to stop Trump, and it backfires spectacularly. So that's just kind of a lead-in to what's going on this week with Trump, which I think, I've been talking about this quite a bit for a few weeks, anticipating this. Last week he had his Uranus trine Mars on the 18th, and he really displayed the typical manifestation of the transit, because you can check out this story of what he was doing. He says, now I'm effing doing it my way. He prepares for war with Mueller. I mean, that's just so quintessential Uranus trine Mars. Independent, single-minded means you go your own way and you don't listen to those who say you can't. He even fired his top lawyer as well, who says Trump won't listen to his advice. And that's really what happens with that Uranus trine Mars. You really get full of your own confidence. Later this week, he's going to be facing some battles. Starting on Thursday, the 29th, he's getting Sun square Mercury. That's 8 degrees of Cancer you see there. So that's lots of communication. He needs to listen in order to discern what others are really saying. And not assume that he's got all the facts and all the information. And we think that we do immediately, with the Sun square Mercury. We think we have all of the little bits and pieces of information and we know what to do. And the Sun-Mercury combinations tend to be focused on their own thoughts. Kind of a good lesson for the Sun conjunct Mercury we're getting this Sunday on the 1st. But in this case, he's got the Sun square Mercury. So it's potential for conflict with others, just like the recent Mercury and Venus squaring Mercury. More high-profile firings of his senior staff members, kind of thing. And then on Friday, that's really the big day, Friday the 30th, because that's the Saturn at 8 degrees of Capricorn opposing his Mercury at 8 degrees Cancer. But luckily, he's also getting concurrently Sun trine Pluto. It'll be at 10 degrees Aries to 10 degrees Leo. So that certainly helps him. And interestingly, he's getting Neptune quincunx Chiron. You see that? 1455 Pisces to 1455 Libra. Kind of an interesting coincidence. He's getting those other two transits exactly on the same day. The most pronounced, I think, of course, is this Saturn opposition Mercury. Not the least of which is because, he's a politician, and that's Mercury. It's a time of confrontations and limitations. It's a time when he needs to show proof of what he's said. A time of karma, when he's held accountable for his promises, which means he could also show he's fulfilling his promises. As Robert Hand states in the book Planets in Transit, quote, "At this time, your ideas and plans may be defeated, or they may have their greatest concrete realization. I think that really summarizes it well for him. Uh, he will be very authoritative and commanding and act like a father figure. Because it's Saturn, it slows down whatever it touches. So in this case, it inhibits his voice. He'll be forced to speak slowly and clearly, possibly make an official announcement. But there's still 2 more passes of this. It's getting it again in May, and then at the end of the year, December. So the issue begins now. It's going to last for the rest of the year. It's going to be a whole time of him standing up for what he believes, trying to fulfill his promises, and achieve success in all of the things he said he's going to do. And this is going to be a really important time this weekend. Luckily, the Sun trine Pluto gives him lots of energy, and he can count on his allies. Very nice thing with the trine to Pluto. Pluto is those collective resources, so they kind of come in to aid you with the trine to Pluto. And the Neptune transit, that quincunx to Chiron, it's very nuanced. It's a very nuanced spiritual experience. You know, and it's kind of interesting, those quincunxes, they always seem to pop up on big occasions. On April the 2nd, Mars opposition Mercury, so it's just more confrontations. You know, he'll be in defense mode with this transit, once again being compelled to stand up for his words and opinions, his politics. Well, this whole week, starting in earnest on Thursday, and even to the early part of next week, he's going to have some of the most important days of his presidency. All of the alternative media reports regarding events following the fall of the deep state indicate now is a point of culmination in Trump's promise to drain the swamp, and I think that the astrology supports that report, you know, those ideas, because it really shows that this is a week of culmination for him. Very exciting week in politics. So as well, we should check the transits for the USA this week. You know, we're still hovering around this Pluto quincunx Mars aspect. It's the one that coincides with intense political battles, transit that could erupt in violence or another false flag, because we've seen so many of these quincunxes at the time we get false flags, and or what we would all prefer here, a major police action. It's ongoing. As Pluto goes retrograde on April the 22nd at 21 degrees 17 minutes and remains close for a while now. And there'll still be 2 more passes, and that's May and January of next year. So 2 quincunxes today. That one and this other one, Neptune quincunx Saturn. And this one is going to be exact on the 27th. You'll see 14 degrees of Pisces to 14 degrees of Libra. And with this one, something hidden comes to the surface, which threatens the structure of the nation. But it's nuanced, and you'll miss it if you're not paying attention. You know, I'll be noting the effect of this to see what happens. You know, 2 more passes in September and January. But one effect that I think this quincunx is causing relates to China. Because if we note here, the USA Saturn's at 14 degrees of Libra. For China, 14 degrees of Libra, they've got their Neptune. So for them, it's Neptune, quincunx Neptune. Now, I've noted this fact that the USA Saturn and China's Neptune share the same degree. It's like they share a common destiny. And a while ago, a few years ago, in 2015, at Pluto and Capricorn squaring 14 degrees of Libra, there was an economic severing between the USA and China. And I thought it was kind of interesting that now, at another tough aspect to that same degree, 14 degrees of Libra, you know, we see China braces for trade war with U.S. It's just going on between Trump and China. There's going to be this trade war, and I just thought it was an important thing to note. It's just tough transit to this common point. And as far as Dave's concerned, I've pointed out recently this they're going to start trading oil futures in yuan, bypassing the U.S. dollar, and this Jupiter sextile Jupiter, actually piggybacking onto the Jupiter sextile Pluto energy, and doing something defiant with the Mars opposition Uranus. And I mentioned that last week, and I just wanted to add in that stuff about the shared degree at Neptune at 14 degrees of Libra. And this week they're also going to be having Mars square the Sun. So basically speaking, it looks like China is in a contentious and unpleasant mood this week as they contend with Trump's new trade war. And just one more thing I wanted to add. I came across some different things. So I look at charts and I go through. And Queen Elizabeth, someone I've been watching for a while, kind of wondering when she would succeed the throne and who she'd give it to. And I noticed that coming up, Jupiter is going to form a T-square to her natal Jupiter opposition Neptune. She's already got Saturn there at that T-square point, but you'll see Jupiter opposition Neptune, 22 Aquarius to 22 degrees Leo, being squared by Jupiter at 22 degrees of Scorpio. Both of them. First Jupiter on the 29th, and then Jupiter square Neptune on the 5th. You know, they're not at all bad transits. In fact, it's a time of spending more than you have, expending more energy than you have, devoting too much of your time to causes, especially with Neptune and so forth. Her sense of proportion is tested as Jupiter expands and Neptune has no boundaries, so it causes limitless expansion. It's all the more so with her as her Saturn is close by, and that, you know, puts a lot of structure on it, and Jupiter is kind of the polar opposite, is expansion. So I think that that's sure to shake her up a little bit and shake up her sense of structure. It's something big and new. She's probably going to be very busy. I'm looking at her transits for the upcoming wedding of Prince Harry on May the 9th, and on that day she gets Uranus conjunct the Sun on that very day. Quite interesting. I know last time she got that transit, she was 7 years old. Uranus conjunct Sun brings a lot of changes into your life. A time when a whole new you begins to emerge. It's an electrical stimulation of your heart as well. In a way, I'm kind of concerned for her health because for someone of her age and temperament, this transit comes with some warnings regarding cardiovascular disease. And, you know, the heart gets just too much energy. She is the longest lived monarch, and at this stage in her life, it will be interesting to see how much expansion and change she can withstand over the course of the next couple of months. Like lots of folks, I'm watching to see when she steps down and whether it be Charles or William to succeed her. Okay, so in closing, this month's contest to win a free natal reading is going well. Everyone who donates $5 in any given month is automatically entered into the contest to win a free natal reading. This is the last week to enter for March, so please donate to this effort. You'll find donation buttons for Patreon and PayPal in the lower right-hand corner of the flower image on my channel homepage, right there. And I just want to give a special thanks to my ardent supporters who really make my day when I get your generous donations. Thank you very much. And I got a Twitter feed, TomJordan364. And please contact me if you're interested in a natal or transit reading. Been doing a lot more of those lately, getting a lot of readings through this channel. It's really great. I'm also available for consultations on a regular monthly basis, using astrology as a tool for life coaching. In addition, I'm a Reiki master. I do long-distance Reiki healings. If you want one of those or a psychic reading, please contact me at mobilestar7@yahoo.com or my weblog at tomsocalm.com, which is where I post the transcript of these weekly videos. Well, that's all this week for Weekly Astrology Notes. Thanks for viewing, liking, and sharing my video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Many blessings, and have a great day. On a monthly basis.